Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I'm joined by the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, rocking a Wrestlemania shirt. And we are right in Wrestlemania season here coming up, aren't we?
Yes, sir. It's right around the corner. I mean, like next week.
Yep. You and I are both going to be
this
there.
weekend, but next weekend, and I will be there.
Yes, sir.
With my lovely lady as well, and I'll be. I think the WWE got me for a 4-hour signing on Thursday, and I'm trying to think. I think Mike Rotunda's got the same thing at the same time. And I think they've got different guys doing it.
Oh man, Money Inc.
And yeah, and then of course I'll be there with Tony as well. So
Tony, of course, being Tony Hunter, the promoter, who's got you and a bunch of other talents booked for WrestleCon. So guys, go to WrestleCon.com if you want to meet the $1 Million Man. Obviously, he'll be at this WWE booking. I think it's probably WWE World. And if you're planning on going to that, you might see him there on Thursday. But aside from that, if you can't be there, go to WrestleCon. Come meet Ted and a bunch of other legends. Man, they really booked a ton of Hall of Famers for that, didn't they?
They did. So let's do it.
All right. Yeah. So be there, guys. If you're going to be in Vegas, don't miss it. And don't miss this episode. Boy, we got a fun one coming up. This is our 22nd edition of Ask Ted Anything.
Wow.
And yeah, man, your listeners brought it like they always do. I want to remind folks that if you want to get a question in and you feel like you've been submitting it and it's not getting through, you can always DM it to me on Twitter at Marcus P. D'Angelo. It's probably the easiest way. Now, look, if it's a question we've already asked or a question that Ted gets asked constantly, we'll probably skip over it. But if you've got a cool, unique one, by all means, hit me up. And look, Ted, before we get into these fan questions, I wanted to ask you a couple questions myself. The first one being that the news just dropped about 30 minutes ago, right here before you and I got going, that the WWE is doing 3 Legacy Hall of Fame inductions. I don't know if you're familiar with the Legacy Hall of Fame induction, but that's where like a guy who has maybe passed away or a guy who I think it used to be like guys that they didn't view as being something that guys that the modern day audience could relate to or get excited about, they would induct them. But instead of having like a the traditional bring their family up to do a speech and all that sort of thing, they just kind of like do a video package and those guys are in the Hall of Fame.
Huh.
So the 3 inductees this year are Kamala, the Ugandan giant. Then you've got Ivan Koloff, and then finally the one that I think you might be excited about is Dory Funk Senior is going in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Oh my gosh,
pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Dory Funk Senior. I mean, that obviously he was the father of Dory Jr. and Terry, and the Funk name, and especially in West Texas, is just everybody knew him. They actually there's a I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's called Boys Ranch, and it's a place where like delinquent kids or troubled kids go and spend time, and then they graduate out of there, and they carry on with their lives. But I think Dory Funk was a huge contributor to that. So it was just, he and my dad were very good friends, and they wrestled each other all the time. I mean, I've never seen it written down anywhere, but I mean, a 3-hour and 20-minute Texas death match has got to be the longest wrestling match in history.
Gotta be. And yeah, I think an argument could be made that he's your father's greatest rival, Dory Funk Senior.
Oh yeah. They were the best friends.
The one thing that people tend to say about these legacy inductions, now look, it's cool and it's an honor, and I'm glad that WWE is honoring these folks. They certainly deserve it. But I guess the one criticism that a lot of fans have right now, and I just saw this in the comments of the post that WWE put up, is a lot of people are like, why is it just a legacy induction? Like, aren't they all legacy inductions? Like, what does this mean? And essentially, as I said, it just means, okay, they're just going to get a video package as opposed to having their family come up there and celebrate them and give a speech and all that sort of thing. They play a video package, and that's that. I don't know, Ted. I would have liked to have seen Dory Funk Jr. get up there and induct his father. What do you think of this approach of just play a video package and on to the next?
Well, you know what? I don't know. I mean, I would say if all of the people that are being inducted are deceased, then okay,
And they are, but I mean, their families are
I can understand that, and so is Dory Jr. going to, speak for his dad?
I don't think so. They're not going to do a speech. They might do the thing where they pan across the stage and there's Dory, Jr. holding the ring for his dad or something. But yeah, I don't know. It's like the speeches are a big part of the Hall of Fame night, and I don't know, for the idea of a legend like Dory Funk Senior not getting a speech as he's inducted into a Hall of Fame. I don't know. It feels weird.
Yeah, I know, because he was he was a big name.
Sure was. A couple other things before we get into fan questions I wanted to ask you about. One of them is something that's going on with me in wrestling, and I'm curious about your take on it because I'm kind of going into uncharted territory this Saturday. This Saturday, which is tomorrow, as this is releasing here on Friday, I'm going to be working in Altoona, Pennsylvania for a company called Imagine Wrestling. It's a great promotion, and if you're in Western or Central Pennsylvania, I strongly recommend you come and see a show. But anyways, I'm going to be participating, Ted, in my first ever tag team match. I've never done one before, and I've only really practiced a little bit whenever I was training. So I'm green as goose shit when it comes to tag team wrestling. So all that said, I'm wondering, Ted, obviously you did a lot of really great stuff in tag teams. If you were going to lay out a tag team match, how would you advise I approach my first ever tag team match as a heel?
Well, the thing is, I mean, the heels, I mean, obviously as the heels, the first thing that both heels should do is shine the baby faces, make them look good, and show your frustration because through your frustration, and then at some point, one of the heels has got to take over, do something underhanded to get the guy down, and then the rest of the match as a tag team. If you're a heel, I mean, you're beating up the baby face. You and your partner are taking turns beating up the baby face. And then what you have to do is call a spot where maybe you both are down, and now he starts crawling to his corner, to make a tag, and you get to your guy first, and he stops you. And that happens a couple times, but eventually that hot tag has got to be made. And then, when that baby face comes in, then not only does he make a comeback on whoever the heel is that's in the ring, then the other heel needs to come in and feed him. So, and then what you're going to do is for finish.
I love it. Now, one thing I will ask is there tends to be in a lot of tag team matches a double down where that goes into the comeback, right? Where both guys get knocked down. There's both guys are slowly crawling to their own corner, double tag. Here comes the baby face.
Yeah.
Now, for a shorter match, I'm guessing that my match is going to be 6-8 minutes, something like that. For a shorter tag team match, is it better to do more of a slip on a banana peel thing where the heel tries something and it backfires, and then here comes the fresh baby face? Or what do you think?
Well, in a shorter match, it's got to be where, how long is the match?
Probably 6 minutes, 8 minutes. I mean, I would guess at a maximum 10.
Well, okay, here's what you do. I mean, you give whatever baby face you're going to take over on.
Mm-hmm.
You get him in the ring, and the shine has got to be real short.
Okay.
Real short, because the body of the match needs to be, him fighting for his life, and then finally making that, that hot tag, and then the hot tag, come in and they make the comeback, and then you do whatever you're going to do. Whether the baby faces are going to go over, great. If not, I would assume they, in an early match they go over.
Yes.
And so the body of that match is, 6-minute match. The body of that match has got to be the sell.
Okay.
So when the hot tag is made, boom, 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 you guys are flying all over the ring, and somebody does their move, and 1, 2, 3, you're out of there.
Man, how about that, folks? Unbelievable advice there from the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Not only was he a great singles wrestler, but obviously Money Inc., one of the best tag teams in WWE history. So, man, really appreciate your perspective. I'm going to apply these things this weekend, and
Cool.
we'll see how it goes. I can't wait.
Good.
Last thing before we get into the fan questions, I know, folks, you're waiting to hear your stuff. It's coming up here in a second, but I do have to ask Ted about this. WWE Hall of Fame is also doing something a little bit different this year, where they've announced that they're inducting a match into the Hall of Fame. Not a person,
a match.
A match that two people had. Yes. And the match, their first ever match induction into the WWE Hall of Fame is, well, you know what? Before I bring it up, Ted, what do you think the match is? If you were to just take a wild guess.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I can't even begin to. Well, I'll tell you, and maybe I'm a little biased, but, there's only 2 guys that ever wrestled for almost 3.5 hours. And that would be Dory Funk Senior and my dad in a Texas death match in Amarillo, Texas.
Yep.
And nobody left. Nobody. I mean, how do you entertain people for 3 hours and 20 minutes? They were letting people in off the street.
It's pretty impressive.
So there's my vote.
Now, there is one caveat. I think it has to be a WrestleMania match. That would be at least, they haven't said that, but it is a WrestleMania match that's gotten inducted.
WrestleMania match. Well, I can't think of one. I mean, it's kind of like.
I think on the surface, most people would think like Hogan Andre, at WrestleMania 3, one of the biggest spectacle matches that ever took place.
Well, it was, WrestleMania 3 was like the world record indoor attendance record, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And in terms of, the number of people there and what have you, yeah. But I mean, in terms of a great match, it wouldn't be a Hogan Andre match as far as I'm concerned. I mean, because Andre was good, but he was, he had limitations.
Yeah.
He had limitations, and everybody had to work around his limitations and work. So but I mean, I'm talking about, just a real good on the mat.
Like a mat classic. Yeah.
Yeah. Mat classic. It's kind of like,
I mean, you and Savage, or Savage versus Steamboat, like those are 2 great ones from WrestleMania. Ted, the match that they went with for their first ever match Hall of Fame induction is from WrestleMania 13. It's Bret Hart versus Steve Austin in a match, and it's a great match by all means. But yeah, I don't know. It's I was a little bit surprised at the choice, just given like, okay, this is a very legacy thing. But then I guess the more you think about it, the more I'm
okay. Who voted on that?
I don't know. I don't know that there was vote, like probably like a board of folks in WWE. Now, let's be clear. If we're going to be real about this, the real reason and look, it's a great match. It deserves, if there's going to be match Hall of Fame inductions, that one deserves to be on it. I would venture to guess that the real reason they're doing that is they're like, how do we get Bret Hart and Steve Austin to be part of this Hall of Fame evening here in Las Vegas? And there it is. That's why.
I don't know, but I mean, hey, I'll be honest with you. There's a great match, and Steve Austin was just a hell of a heel, and Bret, oh my gosh, Bret's one of the best.
A great match, but yeah, I was a little surprised that they went with that one, but then you start to apply logic, and it's like, okay, well, they probably just want those 2 at this ceremony.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea in general, though, of inducting a match as opposed to inducting
Well,
individually?
why not? Again, it's like historically speaking, there've been a lot of matches in big events, and I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I mean, it would be like, well, any other sport, pick a game and that's been played in the National Football League that just was so spectacular. Everybody kept, talked about it for, what I'm saying,
Yeah,
and on a baseball, every sport could do it. To be honest, yeah.
for sure.
So
That's not a bad idea to do it. Football, baseball, yeah, because there's been a lot of iconic moments.
yeah.
I like it. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get into these notes. Plenty of questions. I'll get to as many as I can. First up, got my buddy Peter D, who asks, what do you think it takes to make a Hall of Fame wrestler? Is there some specific criteria that they should have to meet?
Oh gosh.
A lot of Hall of Fame talk this week.
Criteria. The numbers speak for themselves. And it's kind of like, it doesn't take long to tell when somebody's becoming a really big star. It's kind of like, whatever that is, it's kind of like, Hulk Hogan became Hulk Hogan, because, here's this great big guy, and he understood the psychology of professional wrestling, and was great. I mean, he wasn't a great on the mat wrestler, but he knew his character and he played it well, very well. So boom, there you go. There's there's a it's I don't know.
Some guys I've noticed get a little bit pissed off when some people who they don't deem as Hall of Famers go into the Hall of Fame. And one name, and I don't agree with folks who say this, but one name that a lot of people throw out there is Coco Beware. Why is Coco Beware in the Hall of Fame? And so like a lot of people will kind of chastise WWE for some of the names they put in. I don't know, Ted. How do you feel about it? Are you just happy to see your peers getting recognized, or are you like, hey, come on, we got to keep this thing a little more pure?
I loved Coco, to be honest with you. I thought he was a great guy.
Yeah.
But I just, I don't know, that's one where I kind of go, really?
Mm.
Because Coco was never a main eventer.
Right.
He was an undercard wrestler, but he was very good. But he's not the guy that's going to fill your Coliseum.
Right.
And so, I don't want to, plus, personally, I thought the world of the guy.
Yes.
Yeah. And everything, but in that, I was like, he was where he was, and I don't think that he was ever going to be, like a big superstar.
And then we're not trying to be ugly to Coco Beware.
No,
it's
not at all.
Yeah, good for him. It's awesome that he's gotten into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So,
but some folks, a lot of folks will like point to guys like him, and there's a few others down the list that they're just like, hey, why are they in the Hall of Fame? I don't know where I fall on that, because it's all these guys put in hard miles, worked really hard, developed a television persona. So I'm like, I kind of get it, but I see your point too. Next up, we've got Greg Hillman, who's got a great question. He says, Ted, can you explain this picture? Here we go.
Do what?
He said, can you explain this picture?
I'm trying to think where I was, what I was doing.
Looks like just your house, right?
I think, well, it's not my house, because I never had a house with the big door knocker.
Okay.
That is behind me. It's a door knocker. You know, and that could have been taken at Vince's house.
Okay.
You know, because I was doing all that stuff. That might have been back when they were just beginning to push me. And so the $1 Million Man, I'm standing in front of this fancy house, and I'm wearing a man's, you know,
Fur coat.
and I don't think there was any women that could have got into that.
Folks, if you're only listening to this podcast right now, this photo is worth having a look at the YouTube channel. Ted in
Yeah.
a big fur coat. Any chance you remember?
Yeah, you got to be a real man to wear that.
Any chance you remember whose fur coat that was, or if it was specifically bought for you?
I have no. I didn't take it home.
Oh man, too funny though.
No, it had to be. I don't know. It had to be Vince's or maybe Linda's. Well, if it was Linda's, it wouldn't fit me.
I was gonna say
a lot smaller than me. So
you're like the size of a damn linebacker. So I don't see it fitting Linda. All right, next up we've got Jason Bratelli, who asks, Ted, there was a post on social media saying you either refused or couldn't sign an autograph on a replica $1 million title. If true, can you explain why? Ted, do you have any recollection of that?
Do what now?
Somebody's saying that there was a post on social media saying that you either refused or could not sign a replica $1 million championship. Does that sound familiar?
Well, that doesn't sound right at all. I mean, it would for me not to sign something, it would have to be, somebody had to, piss me off pretty good.
Right.
For whatever reason, but there's no reason for me. And obviously, you're talking about the $1 million belt,
mm-hmm.
Just to sign my belt, no, I've never been told by, there's never, I don't understand that.
I can think
the only thing I can think of is that, whoever it might have been, it's kind of like,
maybe they were disrespectful or something.
They're either disrespectful or it's kind of like with people. Sometimes people bring up, like they'll bring up Funko Pops and action figures and stuff and a belt. Well, you're gonna have to pay me for each one of those signatures. That's the deal. And so maybe, I had signed this stuff and gotten the money, for the stuff. And then he pulls the belt out and I said, well, that's going to be this much more. I'm sorry. If you don't have it, I'm sorry. I can't sign it unless you pay me.
That's how it works. Yeah. It's not you being a heel. That's literally how the only other thing I can think, Ted, is when it comes to $1 million belt, where the hell do you sign that thing? Because it's
and that's the deal is I most of the time I encourage the people who get that belt signed to have me sign it on the back. There's a pad there where I can easily sign it, but a lot of people want to put the belt on display and they want to put the signature on display as well. Well, there's not a lot of places where my signature is going to, it's not going to show up really big on the belt,
and it'll rub off eventually.
Well, yeah, and I've even given them a solution to that, and this was my wife's idea, and it works. I signed that, and I said, "Be real careful with it until you get it home, and then take some of your wife's clear fingernail polish, and brush over it, because then it'll cover the signature, and won't make the belt look any different."
How about that? There you go. So there you go, folks. If you have $1 million championship, you can get it signed by Ted and make it last. Just need some fingernail polish. All right. Next up, we have got Donald B, who asks, were you grossed out on getting the slop thrown on you on 3 separate occasions? He's talking, of course, about the Pig brothers there in Phineas Godwin and Henry Godwin in the WWF. They used to have a slop bucket. They were baby faces, and they would dump their slop bucket on the heels. And I guess you got it on a couple of occasions. You remember this?
Yeah, I do. I do. I was, hey, yes, it comes with the job.
That's showbiz, baby.
Yeah. It is what it is. And of course, obviously, as long as I didn't have to eat any slop, dump it on me. I can wash it off fast.
It can always be worse. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've heard about a story where it was much worse for Sunny. In fact, Sunny was there during that period of time, and I guess there were some people behind the scenes who were not fans of Sunny and her behavior. And rumor has it, I don't know this for sure, I wasn't there, but rumor has it that some of the guys may have peed into the slop bucket before it went out the curtain. So.
Well, I must not have been there either. I have no recollection of that. And just for the record, I would not do that. I would never do that.
No, that's horrible.
Anybody.
Horrible. I've heard about a lot of really harsh ribs that were happening to Sunny at the time. We won't go into them. They were gross. JM Primetime is up next. Growing up, my favorite wrestler was Brutus the Barber Beefcake. As a kid, I wanted him to cut your hair so bad, and Virgil had no hair to cut. How did you guys decide to work the angle together, and what was it like working with Brother Brutai?
Working with Brutus was good. I mean, he was a guy who, I personally like, and he's been around a long time, and it's kind of like, I just, Brutus got a good push, but I don't think, okay, I'll ask you this. Mm-hmm. Where do you think Brutus fits in terms of stature? Like, is he a main event guy, or is he just under the main event guy, or middle of the card guy?
Middle of the card guy, beyond a doubt. I don't dislike your Brother Brutus. I've met him a few times. A very nice guy to me. But he had the benefit of being very good friends with Hulk Hogan and having actually grown up with Hulk Hogan. So I think that, like, over the years, Hulk was helping him, and he didn't need help. He was a great mid card wrestler. But
hey, WrestleMania 9.
Yeah, you guys.
Brutus the Barber and Hulk Hogan against me and Rotunda.
And it was a good angle, like really good angle, where you guys like broke his face and stuff. It was very well done.
Yeah, it was very well done.
But yeah, it's to me, I like Brutus, but he was always a mid carder. Never reached the peak. But they tried to shoehorn him into that spot on a few occasions because of his relationship with Hulk, and it didn't really work.
Yeah.
Ted, the hair thing is really interesting to me in that question. I don't know if you know this, but hair versus hair matches are a really big thing, of course, in Mexico. Have you ever wrestled in Mexico, Ted?
No.
Okay, so it's a really, really big deal in Mexico, hair versus hair. Jake Roberts did one in 1993 when he was wrestling for AAA in Mexico, and he got a really, really, really big payoff as a result of it, because whenever you cut your hair in a hair versus hair match, they're going to pay you to do it because they know that nobody wants to get their hair cut. So I say all that to say, Ted, if they had wanted you to get your head shaved by Brother Brutus, would you have gone for it? Would you have asked for more money, or what would that have been like?
Well, just like the $1 Million Man says, everybody's got a price. Okay, I'd say it this way. For whatever the normal payoff would be, I mean, just, no. I'm not going to shave my head, for that. But, and like the $1 Million Man says, everybody's got a price. So if you up the ante enough, everybody's got a price, and so I don't know what that price would have been for me at that time and what have you, but that's the only thing that could have coerced me into cutting all my hair off.
If you were to guess at it, 1993, Jake Roberts gets his head shaved in Mexico in a big angle. Gets color. It's a whole thing. It's a blow off to a huge angle with him and Conan. Actually, if you were to guess at it, how much do you think Jake got paid to have his hair cut in Mexico for the blow off of a big angle?
Oh gosh, I don't know, $5,000.
He got this is out there, so I'm not like putting Jake's personal business out there. He got $30,000 to do that. So,
Hey,
cutting your hair sounds pretty good.
Yeah, for $30,000, you can shave my head and you can shave my legs. I don't care.
You can get out those damn.
Anything you can't shave, we won't talk about.
You can get out those damn wax gimmicks and shave my chest for that kind of money. I don't care.
Oh man. Oh wax. Oh, that.
$30,000. I'd find it acceptable. Raymond Rutherford is up next, and he wants to know: do you have any memories of the Philadelphia Spectrum?
The Philadelphia Spectrum. Well, I mean, see, that for me that's hard to say because I've wrestled in all these places. I've wrestled in the Spectrum, many, many times, but I don't think there's any one match that I can think of as, oh yeah, I remember that match I had in the Spectrum. At the moment, I can't think of anything. I just know that Philadelphia, I love the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the city of brotherly love. My ass. I mean, it's like, it can be anything but that at times.
Arn Anderson always says that the Horsemen were heels everywhere back in the mid 80s, except for Philly. When they got to Philly, that crowd loved heels. Did you get babyface reactions from the heels in Philly?
Well, no, I could piss anybody off.
Nobody can relate to the $1 Million Man. Yeah, I guess you can kind of relate to the Horsemen because they were badasses and they were just beating people up. But how do you relate to a guy who's just throwing a shitload of money around and flaunting it?
Yeah.
That's great. Kev Gaynor, I guess is how you say it. He's up next. This is kind of interesting. I've never thought to ask you this question. Ted, have you ever been arrested or have you ever been close to being arrested?
Nope.
Never.
Nope.
There's a lot of hijinks that go on out there on the road. A lot of guys getting DUIs and being crazy in the bars, getting into fights, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and the only story I can, I guess this would have been as close, but when I first went to the Mid-South, and I remember we were in the dressing room somewhere one night, and we were talking. Somebody was talking about New Orleans, and I said, actually, we were in New Orleans. I'm sorry. And I said, well, I've never been to Bourbon Street. And it was like, it's almost like Dick Murdoch's ears went up. Antenna. He said, you've never been to Bourbon Street? And I said, no. And so, I had ridden to New Orleans from Baton Rouge because that's where everybody was staying. I had ridden there with somebody. Dick had too, and so he went to Jake's dad, Grizzly Smith, and he says, Grizz, could we borrow your car tonight? And you go back to Baton Rouge with somebody, the kid's never been to Bourbon Street. I want to take him down there. And Grizz was kind enough to do that, and I thought about that later. And I thought, I don't know, Grizz, you might have been taking a pretty big chance with your car.
In the world would loan out their car to one of the boys ever. Never.
So Dick Murdoch takes me to Bourbon Street, and oh my gosh, first stop Felix's Oyster Bar, a dozen raw oysters and down the hatch, and not to mention what we drank between the arena, where we went driving down and parking in Bourbon Street, and then we worked our way down to, and there's one of the most famous bars in Bourbon Street. It's called Pat O'Brien's, and that's where everybody went. And so I can remember, I said, Dick, you need to get me out of here pretty soon. This is because if you don't, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And so okay, rookie, let's go. But now here's the deal. The famous drink at Pat O'Brien's is called the Hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of liquor. Well, I had one, and then I had another one. Well, and so I told Dick, I said, if I'm going to drink another one, you're going to drink one with me. And so I said, okay. But what I didn't know is that he was giving the bartender
Oh no,
put it on him, man.
giving him the Iggy.
Oh my gosh. And I said, Dick, let's leave or you're going to have to carry me out of here. He said, okay, rookie, let's go. And so we walk all the way back down to Bourbon Street and stop and eat this and eat that, And so when you eat on top of a lot of alcohol, it's not good.
I know.
So we get in the car and we take off, and we were just coming off the ramp. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I mean, they've got the bridges from like Baton Rouge to New Orleans. I mean, some of those bridges are 20 miles long.
Yep.
Crazy. But thank God this didn't happen on the bridge. We're just coming off the last bridge, but flat tire. So we pull over to the side of the road. And so we get out and we're thinking that part of the jack is missing because all the jacks I remember there was like a plate that sat down at the base, and then you put the pole in there, and then you put the thing that actually jacks the car up on there, and then you slip the long part under the hood, way under the hood, not the hood, the bumper, and you jack it up.
Yep.
Well, not anymore. Now they have cars where if you have a blowout, I mean, there's actually a slit in the fender on each side, and that slit is for that, there was a little piece, there's a little hook piece that was coming out, and we thought that's what went under the fender. That's we're crazy. Actually, that little hook piece goes in that slit, and then you just jack the car right up. Well, these me and Murdoch talked about a couple of knuckleheads, and so he says, I don't know. He says, and so then the car falls. I mean, it wasn't holding it up, and so it slips down. I hit the hubcap. The lug nuts go on the highway. I'm on my hands and knees on Interstate 10, picking up lug nuts.
Oh my gosh!
And Murdoch says, he says, Teddy, get up. He says, get up. He says, somebody's stopping. I said, good. We could use some help. And I crawled up to these two real shiny black boots.
Uh-oh.
And I looked up, and it was a Louisiana state trooper. And in Louisiana, the state troopers wear those Mountie hats.
Yeah.
And Marcus, he's got his arms folded like this, looking at me. And he said, what the fuck are you doing? And I said, well, officer, I'm looking for my lug nuts. He said, probably both. He said, get out of it, And so, Murdoch talked to him and, told him that he had taken, here's a kid, he's never been to Bourbon Street. I took him down there, got him drunk. I'm responsible for this, this mess. And he says, we borrowed the car from the guy who's the agent. He rode back with somebody else, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong with the jack. And then when the state trooper had to show us how the jack worked, we really felt like idiots. So anyway, he did it, and we got the tire on there and what have you. And as the police officer started to leave, and he looked at me and he says, "You back seat." And I got in the back seat, and I'm so glad that that Murdoch was all together, or we both could have gone to jail that night.
Yeah.
But so we get back to the hotel, and by this time it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, or later, and we didn't have to be up early, so like we park, and I just go to bed, and so we get up the next day, and so I go out and I'm looking at the car. Now it had rained, and I said, "Oh my gosh, the rain, just cleaned the car, right?"
Yeah.
Then I went in the back and looked at the bumper and went, "Oh my God." It looked like somebody had taken a can opener to the bumper and just, yeah, it was horrible. And so I go back in, and then just a little bit later, I look out the window again, and Grizz is there. Grizzly's there, and he's standing behind his car like this. And so Murdoch and I both go out, and we told him the story. We told him the story, and we told him, said, Grizz, get it fixed, and we'll just pay you for it. And he goes, "Nope, I'm not going to get it fixed." And we looked at each other and looked at him and said, "Why?" He says, "Because every time somebody tells me or asks me how that happened, I'm going to tell them about you two idiots." And the infamous trip to New Orleans.
Wow. So there you go. That's the one time that the $1 Million Man was nearly arrested. Boy, that's equal parts. Thank goodness for Dick Murdoch, and that damn Dick Murdoch got you hammered. Next up, we've got Freddy6784, who asks, any good stories or memories of Greg Valentine?
I don't have a lot. Greg's a good friend of mine. I've known Greg. Well, the first time I met Greg, he had come to Amarillo. He was wrestling in the Amarillo territory, and I was still in college. I was still at West Texas State, and I just met him at poolside at the hotel where they were staying one day. He's always been a nice guy, but just very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And you just wondered sometimes, and had a very famous father.
Yes.
Yeah, Johnny Valentine was a very famous pro wrestler. Greg's daddy. But Greg is, we all call him Turtle because he even talks slow.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, but all of that to say, great worker, great in the ring, and definitely knew what he was doing, and a good friend.
Everybody in wrestling always says, when you're a heel and you're getting heat on the guy, if you think you're going too slow, slow down even further.
Yeah.
Meaning take your time, work the audience, stuff like that.
Yeah.
People always describe Greg Valentine as methodical. Do you think that also equates to him being a little slow out there? Like, was it a good thing that when he?
Oh yeah. I guess the one thing that he wasn't slow on was the comeback. But the comeback, because the comeback was happening to him. Mm-hmm. He wasn't making the comeback because he was a heel.
The comeback, he's out there bumping.
So like the guy's making a comeback on him and turnbuckles him, and he has to come out and take a backdrop and get back up to his feet and take a drop kick, and that's about as fast as he ever moved.
Which, if you've never been in a wrestling ring, that shit is exhausting. That bump and feed that you give to the baby face during their comeback. Oh my gosh. It's especially if you've been working hard all night. It's all of a sudden, oh boy, here we go. Got to kick it into another gear.
Yeah.
Tim Jurgens, I think is how you pronounce it. Tim asks, what car were you driving around during your early territory days before you got the Trans Am?
Oh, wow. So this guy knows that I had a Trans Am. Wow, he's Uh, what was I driving? Oh my gosh. Okay. When I went to college, my mother and my grandmother pitched in and helped me in the first car I ever had. I had a Chevy Nova. Okay.
Yeah, those are cool.
And a Chevy Nova was pretty cool. And then when I traded that, I traded that Trans Am for, I'm trying to think of what I traded it for.
You were in the family way at that time, weren't you? You probably got a family car.
Okay, Buick Electra.
Okay.
Wrestlers always bought big 4-door cars.
Is it to transport the boys or for your family?
Well, the boys. I mean, because at some point, you're going to be driving.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody took turns so they wouldn't just, run up the mileage in all of our cars, right?
Yeah.
So it was Buick Electra, I think is what it was. And the Buick is the car that it's like that I brought to Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I was driving, when I met Melanie.
Okay.
And it was, I think I bought that Trans Am in Atlanta.
Man, some cool old cars that you were running around in.
Okay, it's kind of like Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah.
Okay. And my car looked identical to the car that what's his name was driving in Smokey and the Bandit.
Bert.
Yeah, it was a black Trans Am with all the the gold bird on the front, T-tops, the whole deal.
Badass vehicle.
I was cool, buddy.
Yeah, dude. That's a hell of a car to be driving around. And I mean, you were making a lot of miles in that damn thing. You were all over the Mid-South region with that thing, weren't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I got it. I think I bought it in Atlanta, and then. But yeah, it's kind of like when I met Melanie, and I can't remember why I decided I was gonna. I don't know.
Had to be her getting pregnant is my only guess on why you'd ever trade in a Trans Am.
No, I mean, no, Melanie didn't. She didn't get pregnant right away. Anyway, I loved it. While I had it, I loved it.
Arn Anderson talks about how much he loves it too, because he used to let him drive it around. And I can't remember if I told you this or not. Arn Anderson, a young Arn Anderson used to drive it. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if I told you this or not, but Arn released a graphic novel that's like a long comic book basically that covers the course of his life. And inside of that graphic novel is your depicted Trans Am, because he has such fond memories of driving it. So so it's like an artist rendering of your old Trans Am. I'll have to send you the picture. What's really funny though is Arn used to say that you would have him drive so that you could sleep in the back seat. And so in the picture, it's Arn at the wheel, and then coming out of the back seat are like the Z's, like somebody sleeping back there. That's supposed to be you. I'm gonna snap a photo of it and send it to you. All right, one more, and then we're gonna wrap this one up for this week. We've got Mean L, who asks, "What was it like getting slammed on the concrete outside the ring? How did you protect yourself?"
Basically, you didn't. There's no real way to protect yourself. I mean, anytime you get slammed, you have to land as flat as you can.
Tuck your damn chin.
That's the main thing, and it's just, it's kind of like, if I got slammed that way, it's because I called it.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to just feed somebody outside and have him slam me. I said,
Ugh.
And I don't know that. I mean, I have been slammed on like the announcers tables and things like that. Those are, I guess you just, that doesn't happen that often. Is
Right.
what I'm saying. It's like, you get thrown over the top rope. You land on your feet and then you go to your, then you fall to the ground. You don't land on your back, but to be slammed on the concrete is pretty tough. But I've taken a couple. So
You have, and I mean, I don't think that they were pulling up the ring mats at the side, so there's a little bit of a cushion where it's not like you're, hitting just plain old concrete. Or did you do that a few times?
well, now they've got mats around the ring on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, if they had that, we'd take full advantage of that. But there have been times when it was just a hard floor.
Oh man, that would be a no for me, brother. What's crazy about it is that nowadays audiences, I feel like you could do that in front of a live audience today, and they're so conditioned to see like violence and these crazy things that I don't think anybody really think much of it. If you took like a body slam on the even if you pulled up the pads, I don't think modern audiences would really care.
Mm.
Which is weird. Ted, I do want to ask you this before we go, because this is making me think of something that happened recently in wrestling. Jon Moxley, who wrestles for AEW, I know you don't watch the product, but he used to be Dean Ambrose in the WWE. He got slammed on a spiked board, a board that was spiked with nails, and it actually stuck into his back to the point where guys had to come out and pull the board loose from him, which is, I would never take a bump like that. Crazy that he did. But it makes me wonder, Ted, do you think more gruesome, violent stuff is needed for modern audiences? They're not impressed by the slam on the concrete anymore. Do you think that these guys have to take these steps nowadays?
Well, if that's what it's come to, then I don't know. I've been slammed on a concrete floor, but I would never willingly. I mean, was he slammed onto that, or was one of those things that he fell on, or?
I believe he actually took a suplex onto this thing, if I remember right. And so yeah, it's like I'm talking about nails sticking out of a board, and they stuck in his back, like around his spinal column. And literally, the people had to come and yank it out of his back.
No, I'd never do that. I would never. I would never submit to anything like that. I'm sorry. That's stupid.
Yes, I agree.
And you just can't fix stupid.
Yeah, to me, and look, it was the topic of debate online for a while, where some fans were like, well, it was a really cool spot and he was fine. Other fans were like, well, wouldn't it have stuck into his back, like his spinal cord, like it could have really severely hurt him?
Well, and that's what I'm thinking. It's like, you start doing things like that. Now you're, I mean, especially the middle of your back.
Yeah.
Your spinal cord. Duh.
Yeah.
You want to run a nail through it? That's stupid.
You could get paralyzed doing some shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, the nails and the nails, and like I've seen just like a great big thing where it's all nails,
like a bed of nails,
huh?
Like a bed of nails.
Yeah, like a bed of nails.
Uh-huh.
I've seen those too, and no, not for me.
Yeah, that stuff is crazy,
I'll
man.
I'll take a slam on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take a chair to the head and across the back, but that's it.
That's about as far as I go. Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. I think that stuff is crazy. I know that, again, these fans nowadays, they seem to expect more to really get a pop, out of them. But I don't know. Ted, would you ever do like a barbed wire?
Here's the thing. I don't know what the fans expect, but if you have two guys that can go out in the ring and tell a wrestling story,
yep,
and in the midst of that story, there are bumps that are taken.
Mm-hmm.
That's wrestling. Now, to just go out in the ring and take a huge backdrop over the top rope and land on a table or land on, I've taken a backdrop over the top rope, but I always landed on my feet and fell to my back.
Yes.
If you think I'm nuts enough I've gone backwards like this, but when I go over, actually the first thing that hits the ground is my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just follow it. I just fall to the floor.
You were doing it safely.
That's that's for sadistic people that are out of their mind.
I agree.
And I would tell any guy that wants to be a wrestler, I said, if you think you have to go out and do something shit like that, forget it.
You probably shouldn't be a wrestler if you can't get yourself over with just your character and the stuff that you're doing. Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of people I'll hear guys nowadays say like, well, we really want to get the audience up, and that 80s style of wrestling, it's just, it doesn't work anymore on fans. And I'm like, last time I checked, human psychology has remained the same.
What? Please, please show me the SOB who said that, and let me talk to that guy for about 5 minutes and put him in his place. I'll tell this to a lot of guys. What's wrong with wrestling today is none of these young guys know how to go out in the ring and tell a freaking story.
Mm-hmm.
They just think they're in there to bounce around, and that's enough to impress the people. It's still about telling a story. It's like, when you go in a movie, it's a movie, it's not real. But if the actors are really good, they draw you into the story they're telling. Well, if two wrestlers are really good, there's a good guy, there's a bad guy, they draw you into the story you're telling.
Yep.
But you don't have to fall on a bed of nails to impress them.
I totally agree. Now,
don't even get me going.
It feels like a shortcut, like guys taking shortcuts to get a pop, where really if you just put the work in and create a compelling story, if you're a good enough heel, you can get the audience to hate you. I don't know. There's ways around it without fucking killing yourself.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we're going to wrap this one up, Ted. Always fun to pick your brain, and I appreciate your time today. And man, a lot of questions left. We'll get to them on a future episode of Ask Ted Anything. And yeah, brother, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Oh, by the way, folks, Ted and I are both going to be in Las Vegas next week, and that means we're probably not going to have any time to record a new episode. So it'll be a best of next time. But we'll be back
when we next speak, Marcus, on the podcast, it'll be post Wrestlemania.
That's right.
We might have a lot to talk about.
Well, I'm gonna pull a Dick Murdoch and get you absolutely shit faced while we're there.
Well, I don't know. Melanie will be with me as well. So
I'll have to get her drunk too, I guess. We'll sort it out. But yeah, man, looking forward to being out there in Vegas. By all means, stop by and see Ted at WrestleCon or at WWE World. I'll probably be hovering around WrestleCon, so if you see me there, come say hi. And yeah, man, always fun to chat with you and do another Ask Ted Anything.
That's awesome. And until then, remember this: everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
See you guys next time on Everybody's Got a Pod.
$1 Million dream, tell them all good night. Everybody's got a pod, everybody's got a price.